is great to see each and every one of you, and so glad you've joined us here today. I get to do many wonderful things as the mayor of the city of Columbus, but this is one of my favorites, is the ability for us as a city and community to recognize some of the most amazing and impactful neighbors of ours, and a chance for us to look back and look forward to what has made this community so remarkable and so special, and it really is our people. And we're here today to celebrate and lift up some incredible people. I want to give a warm welcome to all our inductees and their families and friends. Columbus Hall of Fame honors outstanding individuals who, through exemplary accomplishments, have gained recognition for themselves and have brought credit to this city. So we have honorees in just about every professional field, from fine arts to football and faith. And Coleman is not in here for football. Past recipients include Amina Robinson, one of the country's most prolific artists, and Ohio State football great and Heisman Trophy winner Howard Hopalong Cassidy, who passed away earlier this year. In all, there are 76 people in the Columbus Hall of Fame, and after our ceremony today, there will be 80. Think about that. I believe this year our city is 210 years old. And think about, after today, these 80 amazing leaders who have made us much of what we are and who we are going to become. Our inductees today into the City of Columbus Hall of Fame are the late Mary Teresa Funk, Maude Hill, Dr. Ned Pettus, Jr., and the late Reverend Dr. James Preston Poindexter into the Columbus Hall of Fame. I'm honored to introduce Council President Shannon Hardin to speak about our very first inductee today, Mary Funk. President Hardin.
Thank you, Mayor. It is truly an honor to join you, my colleague, Councilmember Remy, all the elected officials, and all the community members, and all those who care about this amazing city. It is important to lift up. It's important to recognize those who have become the foundation of who we are, who have set our values. And today, we get to recognize 4 amazing individuals. To my former boss, Mayor Coleman. Thank you so much for being here. Let's recognize Mayor Coleman. As council president, one of my more recent bosses, former council member Mitch Brown. Would you recognize Councilmember Mitch Brown? And certainly, did I hear former Councilmember Fran Ryan was coming in as well? Councilmember Ryan's in the back. Would you please recognize Councilmember Fran Ryan? I certainly join the mayor in just lending my appreciation and gratitude to the family, members, and friends of the folks that we are recognizing today. Certainly, the first African-American council member, and Mr. Reverend Poindexter and his family is here. Thank you so much for allowing us to recognize him. To Ms. Maude Hill. Ms. Maude, it is so good to see you. Thank you so much for your years of service. To our forever fire chief and then safety director, Ned Pettus, I'm so grateful. And then certainly to the family of Mary Funk. We say thank you to the family because when people serve, you can't do service without sacrifice. And usually that sacrifice is time, away from family. And so thank you. Thank you. I am here today, though, to lift up and introduce a dear mother to me. And I promise I am a crier, so I apologize, but I really am trying to hold it together. Mary Teresa Funk, for those who know her, once you knew her, she had that impact that you would never forget her. Mary, everybody knows that Mayor Coleman is my mentor, and he has played an amazing role in getting me here, but the truth is no one person can feed into just one person. We are all a combination of so many people who have poured into us to get us to where we are. Mary Funk is one of those people who poured so much, not into just into me, but into so many of us. Just joking with Sean just now, we know that right now, if she was here, she would be in the back using a couple words because she did not like this type of recognition. Her service was real. Her service was genuine. When I was an intern in the mayor's office, the truth is the mayor didn't invite me over to 90 West Broad Street. He sent me over across the street to the Beacon Building, which was the home of the then, we called it the Mayor's Action Center, the precursor to the 311 call center. And it was not some beautiful facility where we had phones and computers and such. It was in the basement of that building, and it was run by Mary Funk. Mary Funk taught me what it meant to be a public servant. Mary Funk taught me that service is not something that necessarily comes with a title. Service is something that is in your heart and is for people. There are so many stories about Mary Funk. Some folks called her, because her name is Mary Teresa, a lot of folks called her Mother Teresa because of her giving nature. She is so worthy to be inducted into this Hall of Fame because a regular girl made it all the way to the mayor's office. And when she was in the mayor's office, she did not forget where she came from or who she was there to serve. She served the people of the city of Columbus, and she did it very, very well. There's a pastor, he's passed now, Reverend Gardner, who said, "Who will be the water to a dry and thirsty world?" Mary Funk, every day that she was in that office, raised her hand and said it was she. She would be that water. It is my honor, because again, it is my honor to introduce this amazing family. I think Sean is going to be the representative, but to Roy, to Jason, to Shelby, to Shelby's fiance, we love you. Thank you so, so much for sharing your dear, dear sweet mother with the city of Columbus. We are better because of it. Welcome to the Hall of Fame, Miss Mary Teresa Funk.
Thank you, Shannon. First off, I'd like to congratulate the other inductees. Congratulations. It's very touching to be part of this class, so thank you. It is nice looking out and seeing some familiar faces. And it is touching after 11 years to see Mom get inducted. I swore I wouldn't do it. But my dad's out there, Jason, Shelby, and Kyle. But who's not here are her 4 other grandchildren that didn't get to meet her. Georgia, which is my 11-year-old. Jason has 3, Mia, Amelia, and Roman. So, I'm done with that. So, but Shannon, you and I were talking before, and my mom would be, what the bleep is this fuss about? Because realistically, when she went to work every day, it was to work for the people. And no matter what it took, I can remember I lived next door to him in a double, and Mom would leave at 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning and get home at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock at night, not knowing what she did and what impact she had on the community as a whole. But one thing I did know for sure was she was from Southern Ohio and saw some less than desirable things down there and saw people who struggled and needed things and help. So from an early age, I learned to give back, but there is nothing that I could ever give back close to what my mother gave to the city of Columbus. But I was telling Marty beforehand, she had a way of, and I'm sure that those that know her real well, had a way of asking you to do something in a manner which was telling you to do something, but also kind of giving you a feel of, if you don't do this, you're going to miss something special. And something special was taking care of the citizens of Ohio or Columbus. I do also know that she was very proud of the city of Columbus. Not only, as Mayor Michael Coleman would tell you, Harrison West was where we lived from the time she got here in Columbus in 1969, and lived on the same street until she passed away. And my dad still lives there today. She would also be proud of the development of downtown Columbus and what it looks like today. I guarantee you if she was here today, she would just be at awe with everything that's happened downtown and the surrounding areas and the growth that is going each way from each direction in Columbus. But I think the one thing that is probably more important is the friends that she made throughout the process. She could be a difficult woman at times. You can ask my dad, you can ask my brother, but I think she was fair, and she did everything she could to uplift folks and make them understand that there is something bigger than yourself. Give back to the community, cherish that, and do for others as you would want others to do for you. And if that means a story that Mr. Coleman told at the funeral was, and I didn't know this, but my mother went out, they were doing a bicycle event on the west side, and she met a little boy, I believe it was, or a little girl, I can't remember, but they didn't have a bicycle to ride in the event, and my mother went and bought a bicycle and brought it back to this little boy so he could feel part of the community and take part in the event. So those are some of the examples that really stick out to me. But this event right here today in this building is kind of super, super special for a couple reasons. One is because I remember Water Fire on the Mile. And we walked right past here to get down to the event, and it was a big deal. And I was telling Marty that I don't know the astronaut's name, but she was carrying the torch, and right behind her was Mary Funk, for whatever reason, following behind with the torch, which I still can't believe, but it was awesome. And in today's recognition of my mother, it is incredibly awesome, but in a couple weeks, sorry, we'll be back. To celebrate Shelby's engagement party in this building, kind of full circle. With that being said, I've kind of rambled on, gone all over the place and cried and all kind of stuff. But the one thing that I will ask everybody here is, Do more, give back, because my mother is probably looking down on me saying, quit crying, but what are you doing to make the city of Columbus better? What are you doing to help the less fortunate? And I guarantee you, the folks that she knows, if you're not giving back and doing, she's gonna haunt you. So again, please give back, take care of the citizens of Columbus, because this is a great city, and know that my mother loved this city as much as she loved her own family. Thank you.
Former Mayor Coleman, would you come up, and Council President Hardin to present and the Funk family, please come forward. Wanted to also acknowledge former council member and current county auditor Michael Stenziano, who's joined us as well. I don't know if we ever said in that whole exchange, President Hardin, that you were the one that nominated Mary Funk, and so thank you for nominating such an outstanding inductee. Our next inductee is Maude Hill, an agent of human service, public safety, and social change for so many decades in our community. You think of all the families, children, neighbors that have been impacted and lifted up because of her incredible contributions. We are so excited and grateful to be able to induct her here today. Here to tell us a little bit more about Maude, her walk, her service, her journey, and all the great work she's done. I just met him. Her grandson, Christopher Baxter Hill.
First off, it is an honor to be here with you all today. The weather seems to have slowed down, but it's Ohio. I mean, you never know. We are so blessed to be in the presence of so many amazing people who have dedicated their lives to service and to the people of Columbus, to make change. And we are here to celebrate my grandmother, Maude Hill, an amazing woman who has devoted her life to the service and betterment of the people, but not only that, to the betterment of her faith life. She has always passed on the message that even in your worst struggles, God is always there with you. And we have all experienced some tough times. She has been there for me, for her family, and for her friends. I just want to say thank you for that. She is a woman who boasts many accomplishments. Too many to list, in fact, but this will be the greatest of them. I've never known anyone kinder, smarter, or tougher than her. In fact, I'm sure you would all agree that she is one of, if not the most hardworking woman in this room. She's a boss, a mother, a grandmother, a friend, a teacher, a leader, and for me, she has been a lighthouse in the darkness. So I'm very happy to introduce Maude Hill.
Thank you, Christopher Baxter K. Your grandfather, my late husband, Baxter Hill, whom you were named after, is beaming today from heaven. Thank you. I want to thank all of you, all of you honorables who are here today. I won't call all of your name because there's many, but thank you for coming out. Thank you for all your hard work. Mayor Ginther, you and I have traveled the long road of making Columbus a better city for all people, along with your predecessor, Mayor Coleman. Mayor Ginther, your work closely with our city council, the community, you have been able to provide more in way of affordable housing, safe communities, jobs, and your reinvestment in our neighborhoods. Thank you. I also am grateful today for my families, my friends, whose support has allowed me to make a difference. Just to name a few, my pastor, Dr. Keith Allen Troy, his wife, Brenda Troy, people like the Kellys, the Weilers, Mr. Bob Schottenstein, Columbus Foundation, the City of Columbus, Franklin County, and our funders, our legislators from the national level of government right down to our local government. And I must also acknowledge I have 3 directors here today: Amy Claiborne, Bruce Lukey, Leah Evans. Homeport's Board of Directors, my coworkers who provided the platform so I can do what is needed every day to make a difference and make our organization better. I have been blessed to have so many people open doors so that I could help others. God put me on this earth with the purpose to help others. But it would not have happened without all of you. As some of you may know, I grew up on my grandparent farm in Thomaston, Alabama, where I learned your word is your bond. And that is important to help those, and also to help those who are struggling and in need. My education in advocating for others began when I moved to Cleveland as a young adult and witnessed my aunt working for public schools desegregation. Soon I was fighting for people living in poverty, working to raise their meager welfare benefits and demanding to be treated with respect. At one point, I even went to jail after sitting in for justice. Eventually, I moved from the outside to the inside in Cleveland and then Columbus, where I worked as a state agency, helping people with drugs and alcohol addiction. One day in 1990, I was reading the newspaper and saw an ad for a job at Homeport. At that time, it was known as Columbus Housing Partnership. Turns out, working in the affordable housing arena. At the intersection of government, business, faith, and social service. This would become the romance of my life. That was 32 years ago. The devastating impact of homelessness and poverty remains a driving force in who I am today. After all these years, my job still doesn't feel like work. You see, it matters to me that our children have a decent place to live, where they can do their homework and be safe. It matters to me that their parents are connected to employment so they can pay their rent and lead stable lives. It matters to me that 54,000 individuals and families in Central Ohio are paying 50% of their income for housing, leaving very little for food, transportation, digital access, and other necessity. As a senior vice president at Homeport, I see what I do as an opportunity to keep the American dream alive. That means making housing more affordable, safe, and healthy, and close to work and school. In our housing neighborhood, that means support to make sure people have a safety net so they are able to be responsible, productive human beings and care for their family. This work is my passion, and I am eternally thankful that my job allows me to fulfill a dream for so many who are so deserving. We are far from being done. There's so much to do to make things better for others, and everyone can participate. One thing I always tell people is that you can help your children's or someone else's child to get a good education. That's one of the greatest gifts of all, right, Herschel? As a leader in the fight for affordable housing, I'm honored by my induction today in the Columbus Hall of Fame. I'm humbled to be sharing the stage with today's notables. Together, we are joining an incredible list of who's who from the past, like Eddie Rickenbacker, Jack Nicklaus, Archie Griffin, now me, Maude Hill. I'm just a rural Alabama farm girl who came to Ohio as a determined young woman with deep faith in Scripture. You may know this one of my guiding lights. It's 2 Timothy, the 4th chapter, the 7th verse. And it goes like this, and Paul said it best. I have fought the good fight. I have ran a good race. I've kept the faith. I may not always have an answer, but I know together we can find one. I believe in my heart and soul the importance of the work for the betterment of others. I will do this until the day I die. Please join me in solving challenges that still need our attention. Mary Ginther, thank you so very much for all of your hard work every day. Thank you, City Council members, for all of your hard work. Thank you, family and friends, for everything that you do to make life better. Thank you.
Next, someone who has been an incredible leader in our community for so many years. So excited today to be able to induct Dr. Ned Pettus, Jr. into the Columbus Hall of Fame and to share a few words and maybe a couple of stories. Please welcome Senator Herschel Craig.
The book of Micah lifts this query. It raises this interrogative: what does the Lord require of thee? The word comes back to do justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly before the Lord. Dr. Benjamin Elijah Mays, the mentor to Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., said it this way: it must be borne in mind that the tragedy of life does not lie with not reaching your goals. The tragedy lies in not having any goals to reach. It's not a calamity to die with the dreams unfulfilled. It is a calamity not to have any dreams. It's not a disgrace to not reach the stars, but it is a disgrace to not have any stars to reach. And then he says this most compelling thing: it is not failure, but low aim that is a sin. Let me thank all of you, certainly to the mayor, our great mayor, and to our certainly our current mayor, Mayor Ginther, and to, I don't see our previous mayor, Mayor Coleman. He was here. But you acknowledge them with applause today. You can do better than that. You can do better than that. And certainly to this distinguished panel, this distinguished group of achievers. What an honor and privilege it is for me to be here today, and particularly, and certainly I know all of the awardees intimately, and thank them. Certainly I didn't live long enough to know Dr. Poindexter. I know I'm old, but we did honor him in the State House by presenting and ensuring that Poindexter Village became a national landmark in the nation. But let me get on with my assignment, and that is to honor somebody that I deeply love and admire, and that's Dr. Pettus, Ned Pettus. You know him. You have seen his bio. You know his brilliance. He's an erudite man. His great achievements, becoming the first African-American fire chief in the state of Ohio and one of the few in this nation. Also elevating and being elevated mayor to serve as the public safety director. Let me also share with you, here's a man whose parents were sharecroppers that came here, and we talk a lot about public education and public schools. He's a Lyndon McKinley graduate. Now, I forgive him because he couldn't go to East High School, but it's okay. But I wanted to share that with you because just observing him, and one of the things I know about him is he is a humble man. He is a man that cares about God, and not only talk about it, but he walks that walk. He's mentored many that have come for 44 years, 4 decades in that office. And so when we talk about icons, just a few weeks ago, Don Elder, who was a good friend of mine and somebody that I deeply admired and respect, had gone on to glory. One of the original Tuskegee Airmen, and I put you, sir, in that category of folks that have traveled very difficult roads, but not only for yourself, but to really do and certainly honor our city in so many wonderful ways. And certainly for me to be asked to stand here today. What an honor and privilege for me to be here. Soon will be 73 years old. And when I say that word, icon, I don't say it, Mayor, just to say something, but to elevate a man that have done so much for so many. I just want you to know I thank God for you. I continue to ask God to lift you up and your family and all of the things that you'll continue to do, certainly not only for your family, but the great city of Columbus and this world. God bless you. And as I leave this podium, I just leave with the words of Mays, because every morning after I do my devotion, I think about the words of Mays. And he said this, I only have a minute, only 60 seconds in it forced upon me, can't refuse it. Didn't seek it, didn't choose it. But it's up to me to use it. I must suffer if I lose it. Give account if I abuse it. Just a tiny little minute, but eternity is in it. God bless you. Director, come on up and get your award.
Thank you so much, Senator Herschel Craig, for your gracious introduction. As always, I'm grateful to God for you and your support and prayers for me over the years. God bless you. Congratulations to all the other inductees. It is humbling to be in such great company. And to Mayor Ginther, thank you so much for this honor, which I could never have imagined would have been in my future. You also have been a blessing from God to me and my family over the years. Thank you so much, Mayor. And to my wife, Lynette, thank you so much for your love and support through it all. You were my inspiration and strength. You carried the family, especially when I was gone, on duty for 24 hours every third day. Gone for weeks attending Harvard, and gone regularly attending meetings, events, and ceremonies. Thank you for taking care of all of the important things while I focused on leading and overcoming barriers. And when I wasn't gone, you spent countless hours listening to all of my venting and getting frustrations off my chest. You were the voice of love, truth, and hope that kept pushing me on to victory. God bless you. I love you. I would just like to briefly express what I will remember most about my leadership journey in Columbus. As fire chief, it was my opportunity to lead the transformation of the Columbus Division of Fire, with support from Mayor Coleman, Safety Director Mitchell Brown, and a labor management partnership with the International Association of Firefighters, Local 67. And in some measure, we were able to change the culture of the Division of Fire. And having the support and friendship of Police Chief James G. Jackson was also very influential. But even with all of that support and influence, the journey still was not easy. From the very outset of my journey, I was personally and permanently impacted by the stigmatization of blacks as not being smart enough to become firefighters, and that standards had to be lowered for us to be able to pass the civil service test. There was discrimination, disparate treatment, and openly unfair and unequal treatment. However, there was also advocacy, mentoring, and support in general. As fire chief, I had the full support of clergy externally, especially Bishop Donald Washington and the Mount Hermon Missionary Baptist Church, where I grew up. Internally, I had the full support of Mayor Coleman, City Attorney Janet Jackson, and City Council Safety Chair Andrew J. Ginther, along with other elected officials. Moving up the chain of command, I was mentored by the 2 fire chiefs that preceded me. For 6 years by Chief Harmon Duco, and for nearly 5 years by Chief Stephen Woltz. So I knew full well how the division had been run for a previous decade and what changes were needed going forward. In fact, I remember the battalion chief over the Fire Prevention Bureau, when my brother Robert was an inspector in that bureau. He came over to me after a meeting once and said to me, "Ned, you know, you spend more time with the fire chief in just 2 weeks than I have in more than 30 years on the fire department." And he was right. That was in 1991, and I was a captain at the time. Chief Duco appointed me to set up the division's first internal investigations unit, the Columbus Fire Division's version of an internal affairs bureau. Chief Duco told me he was doing it because he wanted to get rid of the good old boy system. He said my name was the only one that both the union and the administration could agree on for setting up and running that bureau. That's when he, Chief Duco, started teaching me how he ran the fire department. I will remember that Columbus was ready for and embracing of the changes that were needed. I will always remember leading Columbus Fire into international accreditation by the Commission on Fire Accreditation International. It happened in 2007, at which time, of the 25 largest cities in America, the only accredited fire departments were in Houston, Texas, the 4th largest city, and Nashville, Tennessee, the 25th largest city. As the 15th largest city, it made Columbus Fire a model for departments across the country and around the world. And since Houston's was the largest accredited fire department in the world, that made Columbus Fire the 2nd largest. Also, it made Columbus the largest city in America to have both its police department and its fire department accredited, since Houston and Nashville's police departments were not accredited. Clearly, I'm very proud of those accomplishments, and I will always remember them. But next, I'd like to say a few words about what I would like for Columbus to remember about me. I would like for Columbus to remember that God prepared me in advance for the role that I would eventually play. He equipped me with the faith, the patience, the thick skin, perseverance, and the transformational leadership attributes that would be needed to lead change in what was then a 180-year-old organization, and one that had traditionally been known to be racist and resistive to change. He chose me to be a leader during tough times. Tough times, and I mean tough times. I was appointed fire chief just 6.5 months after 9/11, when no major city in America was adequately prepared for a terrorist attack. We had the largest non-military bomb squad in America right here on the Columbus Fire Department. And more than 72% of all terrorist incidents involved explosives. We conducted a simulated exercise with law enforcement and all levels of government during Red, White, and Boone, where up to 500,000 people would be assembled. The Ohio Fire Chiefs Association arranged for representatives from all 50 states to attend, observe, and learn from our preparation. Bomb squads are on the police department in many American cities, but it's on the fire department here. Yes, leadership during tough times. Finally, I was appointed safety director just 6 weeks after a controversial police-involved shooting of a black man, Henry Green. And just 6 weeks before a controversial police-involved shooting of a 13-year-old black teenager, Tyree King. There was protest after protest, meetings with the People's Justice Project, NAACP, clergy, and community leaders, to name a few. There was the Black Lives Matter movement, followed by the COVID-19 pandemic, and the challenges continue today. Leadership during tough times. We didn't solve all the problems, and we didn't fix everything, and we didn't always get it right. But we never gave up, we never stopped trying to do what was right, and we never stopped looking for better ways to improve the safety and well-being of our community. And we never stopped looking for ways to improve diversity and inclusion. Never did and never will. I thank God for preparing me and for never leaving me throughout my leadership during tough times. I'm proud to say that Columbus, a city of great potential, brought out some great potential in me. A city where I believed in its greatness, and it brought out a little bit of greatness in me. I've always had faith in Columbus's potential to move forward, despite its challenges, and despite the challenges I encountered throughout my career. It has always demonstrated faith in me, and Columbus will forever be my home because we have grown together. And although I may have retired, I am not tired of partnering with the great people of my home, this great city, as its story continues to unfold. As I said, Columbus and I grew up together. I was born in Columbus in November of 1951. Columbus was a mere 50 square miles. It has now grown to be 229 square miles, and I've grown to be 239 round pounds. Well, 243, but I'm working on it. But I'm proud to be a Buckeye. So thank you again to my wife, Lynette, to my family, both immediate and extended, to Senator Herschel Craig and family, thank you so much. And thank you again to Mayor Ginther for inducting me into the Columbus Hall of Fame. And to all of you and your families, may God bless you exceedingly, abundantly, above and beyond all that you could think or imagine. Good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator, and thank you, Director Pettus. So grateful for your steady hand, very difficult times. Leadership oftentimes was lonely in those days, and I and this community, when many others were hard to find, we're able to rely on you. Thank you. Last but certainly not least, an inductee that is far overdue in being inducted. I couldn't believe, quite honestly, when I read it, that Reverend James Preston Poindexter hadn't been inducted into the Columbus Hall of Fame. How did we miss that one? We're making it right. An abolitionist, a civil rights activist, politician, Baptist minister. I spoke to many pastors as we were sharing the information with Rita and so many others, and Pastor Aarons, Pastor Washington, so many other faith leaders just talked about the incredible impact that Reverend Dr. Poindexter had on this city and community. Tell us a little bit more about that and share some additional details about Reverend Poindexter. Please welcome Councilmember Emanuel Remy.
Good afternoon. No real hurry to get out of here unless we want to get out in that rain. So it certainly is an honor to be here today celebrating such amazing individuals. And, you know, I just kept thinking over and over again, service just comes to mind, and how well all of these candidates and people that we have inducted have served this community and made it what it is today. I know I had the pleasure of working with Director Pettus throughout his career, and certainly Maude with Miss Maude with many, many meetings trying to help solve some of the problems that we have in housing and at the church, and you know, just a variety of things. But talking a little bit about your mother and how she poured into people. You know, I started in community service back in those days, and when there was an issue, you knew to call your mother to get it done. And she really poured, you know, into me a way of, you know, serving. And so I am very honored to have known her and had the opportunity to work with her. So all of these inductees are great. So, you know, as the mayor said, my name is Emanuel Remy. I'm council member, proud to serve with my colleague, Council President Hardin. And I'm so honored to recognize our next inductee, final inductee today, the late Dr. Reverend James Preston Poindexter. When I got into office in 2018, I'm a student of history. And I started, you can ask my staff, we started going through tunnels in City Hall and trying to make sure we knew every nook and cranny of the jails downstairs. And I started reading all of the different council members that had served on the second floor, and particularly knew about Poindexter Village, but particularly read and focused in on the contributions that this great man made to our community and quite frankly, the state of Ohio and beyond. He was an abolitionist, a civil rights activist, a conductor on the Underground Railroad. He was obviously very actively involved in politics, and the first African-American ever elected to Columbus City Council. Reverend Poindexter was passionate about education. He fought tirelessly for the equity for black children in Columbus schools and served several terms on the Columbus School Board. Reverend Poindexter was also a Baptist minister who pastored the historic Second Baptist Church for 40 years. His life's work was memorialized in the naming of one of the first affordable public housing complexes in Columbus and the nation as part of President Roosevelt's New Deal. There are few others that I can think of who exemplify the mission of the Columbus Hall of Fame like Reverend Poindexter. His commitment to fighting for those who had less and his trailblazing done on Columbus City Council and the Columbus School Board are exactly why we are here today, recognizing his legacy. I'm pleased to invite up Miss Rita Smith to join me on the stage. Rita created the James Preston Poindexter Foundation in 2014 and has been a dedicated champion in upholding the history and reputation of Reverend Poindexter. Rita has been working with the Ohio History Connection to turn the remaining buildings of Poindexter Village into a museum and cultural learning center. The Poindexter Village Museum and Cultural Center will showcase the rich, untold story of an African-American experience in its neighborhood and beyond in order to nurture understanding, inspire success, inform action, and empower future generations to build the strong, vibrant, and just community that they want to live in. Without further ado, Miss Rita Smith.
That's pretty powerful, trying to follow him. I am truly honored, and I'm really humble. Okay. Thank you, Mayor. But I am truly honored and humbled to be able to stand here and speak on behalf of Reverend James Preston Poindexter. And I give my thanks to Mayor Ginther. As you said, this is long overdue. And I would like to thank all of the council members, but especially Councilman Ramey for all that he has done to bring this long forgotten history to light. And then I have to thank Councilman Hardin and also past Councilwoman Miss Tyson, because she was so instrumental in bringing us here today. But then I'm also humble that I'm standing here, and I'm not a Poindexter, but we do have Poindexter members in the audience, and some of our members from the James Preston Poindexter Foundation. And then I would like to thank the staff that has worked so hard to make this wonderful day and celebration. Thank you for all of your hard work. You know, as they say, there are no mistakes in the Lord's plan. And Reverend Poindexter was a man of his time. I've often said he was the Martin Luther King of the late 1800s, okay? But his life, for he stood in his life's message, may be just what we need today. So, as I said, Lord's not late, he's on time, and maybe we need to hear what Reverend Poindexter would want to say to us today. All of the materials that I'm sure Councilman Rainey has looked at and I have read, they're lengthy and great. We would get through this rainstorm if I could reiterate everything that he achieved and the things that he did. But I think today, we're really here today to celebrate the man, because he truly was a man of all nations. He was part Cherokee. He was white, and he was also a Afro-American. So he represented all of us in his day. He was a man of impeccable principles and values that led him to be beloved, honored, and highly respected by all of those who knew him. Now, without going into great detail, he was born into slavery, but he ended up being freed and apprenticed as a barber, and his occupation was a barber. And many of you, I look at all you young folk, don't remember where the Neal House was, which was the Huntington, and now it's something else. There across from the State House, across from there on High Street, right across from the State House. And that was where he had his barber shop. And in that position and his clientele, he ended up having connections with not just everyday men, but he had the statesmen, folks that ended up being our presidents, our governors. So he had the ear, not just of the ordinary folk, but he had the ear nationally. Now, think about that. In the 1880s, a black man had the ear of Washington, D.C. Now, those are off-the-cuff remarks. Please forgive me. You know historians love to get into details. But his character, which was of the highest standards of integrity and honesty, and he was a great man of faith. It was those principles that ruled his pulpit at Second Baptist Church. And it was said that if you didn't have good character, you weren't going to stand behind his pulpit. So you had to come right. You couldn't be raggedy for Reverend Poindexter. But he was also, those principles led him in all of his leadership roles in all areas of his life. And just for your reference, as I said, that Neal House, many of you don't remember that, but Reverend Poindexter and how this city developed, I want you to visualize his home was at 41 North 4th Street. That is a Gay and 4th. That is where he lived. But getting back to the man, his life's work was to be of service to all, and he sought justice and equality for the poorest of us to the most fortunate. He was a race man. He wanted to bring justice to those of his race who had survived the inequity and inequality of slavery. And he wanted to bring education to those who had been denied the opportunity to reach the pinnacle of his or her ability. He was a wonderful writer. If you will go to the Columbus Library and look up Poindexter, Reverend Poindexter, he wrote for the, it was the Journal, Citizen Journal. Now, many of you don't remember that paper, but he wrote articles that, on every subject, that you would just be astounded to read. And I invite you to do that research. But also, not only did he speak to the civil, he spoke to all kinds of issues. He was, as a writer, but he loved to share and quote Shakespeare. So he was quite a person. But my favorite two stories is how he would instruct the young ministers that he was training. And he shared with them that it was important to not only to know the Bible, but it was also their responsibility to know the Constitution and the Bill of Rights and what governed us as citizens. And if I may, I would like to quote a few of his words, as I quote. This is what he said: does the candidate, well, first of all, when he was called for those who sought to vote and for those who ran for office, he made sure that their character was worthy. And as I said, I will quote him, does the candidate possess the ability and the integrity to discharge the duties of the office with credit to himself and to be an advantage to the state? If he does, is he too to be gentlemanly in his bearing, to make it a pleasure for his associates to cooperate with him in measure promoting the interest of the country. Quote, end of quote. He was clear that if either party advocated bad measures or nominated an unworthy candidate, he would withdraw his support. Now, I wonder what Reverend Poindexter would be thinking of our political process today. You know, he was someone special. Because as he walked the streets of downtown, that it was clear he was not an ordinary man. He had a tall hat, felt hat, had long silver hair. Remember, he had that Cherokee heritage. And he wore a long pastor's coat. And as he strutted down those streets, you knew he was a man of distinction. But his love and support for the education of our children, as Councilman Remy shared, he served on the school board. But he supported education for all youth. And he also wanted to instruct them to always seek knowledge. He fought for excellence, not just for today, but for those who were to come. We have a responsibility of finding ways to educate our children as to the yesterday's heroes and sheroes, like Reverend Poindexter and Frederick Douglass, and so many others. And we stand on their shoulders today. He was a man who loved his family, and especially was devoted to his wife and son and grandchildren. He was a man of his day and time, but he is a man for today as well. But can I confess that I stand here and I have a special passion for Reverend Poindexter, and I have to disclose all facts, right? Have to be truthful. That he had a profound relationship to my family. First, they were all on the Underground Railroad together. They were all conductors. My great-great-grandfather and my great-grandfather. He appointed my great-uncle to be a representative for the state of Ohio in the World's Fair in 1895. So he touched me personally. But then, even then, in January 1st of 1901, Reverend Poindexter married my grandparents, Jenny and Corey Adams. And it just so happened to be they lived right where Poindexter ended, on Hawthorne Avenue. But then that date is important, because if you remember, January 1 was the first day, that was the day the original emancipation became effective. So I have a special place in my heart for Reverend Poindexter. But he is a man for us to all revere. We couldn't go through all that he accomplished. But again, it's sort of overdue, so today is truly his day, and it's truly on time. Thank you.
Poindexter family join us? So grateful for each and every one of you that have joined us today to celebrate these amazing members of this community. Think about this community, this beautiful 210-year experiment in this community, and these four amazing leaders and the impact that they've had. So glad to be able to lift them up, to celebrate them here today. I also want us all to think about folks that we should consider inducting into the Hall of Fame into the future. You've seen a group of folks from all walks of life today and in recent years, and want us to challenge each and every one of us to make sure that we don't overlook somebody else for a couple hundred years. There are amazing people in all walks of life in this community, not just sports celebrities and artists and performers, but the everyday people that made us who we are and made this community what it is and what we will become. So please share those names and insights and thoughts with us in the mayor's office so that we make sure that we continue to lift up and celebrate the great people of this community. I ask the inductees and their families to stick around. I'm looking to the photographer. Are we going up here or are we going to the back of the room? Right here. Up front here, please stick around for a few photos, but to the inductees, their families, to all of you, make each and every one of you lift up and celebrate these folks, and may God continue to bless the city of Columbus. Thanks for joining us.